The first step to send your first shipment into the Amazon FBA warehouse is to go to sell.amazon.com and click to sign up for a Seller Central account. Once you have your seller account, you're going to log in. The second step is to make sure that the item that you want to ship into the Amazon warehouse is already listed on Amazon. You can check this by going into Products and then into Manage Products. If the product that you want to ship into the Amazon warehouse is not listed in this tab, you can click here on Add a Product. However, if the product that you want to ship into the Amazon warehouse already has an active listing, you're going to click on Search, type the listing title, and you're going to choose the exact item you want to sell. You'll then have to click on Copy Listing and fill out a little bit of information about the product that you're shipping in. However, if the item that you want to send into the Amazon FBA warehouse is not already being sold on Amazon, if there's not already a listing, you're going to have to click on Blank Form and then Start. You'll then have to go through and fill out information about the product that you want to list on Amazon. Once you do those first two steps, it's time to start the process of shipping your product into the Amazon FBA warehouse. However, if you need help with these first two steps, I created an in-depth video showing you how to apply for an Amazon seller account, as well as another video that goes in depth showing you how to properly list your product on Amazon. But once you have your seller account and your product is added, you're going to click on Manage Products and you're going to scroll down and find the product that you want to send to the Amazon FBA warehouse and click on this little drop down next to the Edit button. You'll then select Send Inventory. Now, if you don't see this option, it may be because you currently have your item set to be fulfilled by merchant, and you'll need to switch that. And the way to change that is to click this button that says Switch to FBA. And to show you how to ship your products into the Amazon warehouse, I'm going to use a real example of a real product I'm selling called Ascend, which is listed here. Now, warning, throughout this video, I will be covering 6 huge mistakes I see new sellers make. These mistakes can end up costing you thousands of dollars and delaying your shipments and delaying when you actually start getting sales. So pay attention because I'll show you how to avoid all 6. And right here is the first mistake. Most people end up selecting the wrong ship from address. Always double check this and make sure it's correct, because I've actually made this mistake before and it ended up costing me $5,000 in lost sales. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Travis and I'm a 7-figure Amazon seller. And make sure to like this video because I'm going to share all my hacks with you right now, all the tips I've learned over the last 10 years of selling on Amazon. And if your ship from address is not correct, in order to change it, you're going to click here and then click Add Contact and put a new address right here. This is really important because if you're shipping from your manufacturer's address, you want to put their address instead of your own personal address. It'll automatically default to your own personal address. But if you have your product being manufactured at a warehouse in some other area and you want Amazon to pick up your products from the manufacturer directly, you need to make sure that they have their address. However, if you have the products shipped to your house first so you can inspect them, then that's fine, obviously, if you use your personal address here. Now, here's one of my secret hacks that's going to save you a lot of money if you're shipping products from outside the US. If your manufacturer is overseas in a place like China and you want to ship it directly from them into the Amazon warehouse, you might want to find an address that you can use as your shipped from address that's located in the West Coast. Let's say California, for instance. That way, Amazon is going to pick an Amazon FBA fulfillment center, a storage warehouse that is located in California, and California is pretty close to China compared to New York, for instance. And this will save you money because if, for instance, you live on the East Coast or in the middle of the United States and you have that as your ship from address, Amazon's going to select a fulfillment center over there. And that means if your product's being shipped from China, it's going to have a lot further of a distance to travel, and it would ultimately mean that you have to pay more money in shipping fees because you'd have to pay the shipping fees from China to a port probably in California anyways, and then you'd have to pay additional trucking fees and shipping fees from that port into whatever fulfillment center on the other side of the country that you're being told to send your products into. Now, warning, technically, I think this is probably against Amazon's rules, so do this at your own risk, but pretty much every Amazon seller I know ends up doing this, so it's not something that I'm worried about doing when I do it myself. The next step is to look at the marketplace destination. If you're looking to sell products in Amazon United States, you're going to want to select United States as the marketplace destination. However, if you're wanting to sell products in Canada, the UK, Europe, or some other marketplace, you're going to want to select the correct marketplace here. After that, we're going to scroll down and we've already got a template here for Ascend. But if this is your first time shipping a product on Amazon, you're going to need to create a new case pack template. And I'll explain the definition of all the words that I'm using, and it's important that you know all these different definitions because Amazon is really specific and it can get confusing. And the first word that I wanted to define here is case pack template. And when I say case pack, it means a container that's going to hold multiple of your units. And with Ascend, we don't just ship in one product at a time. We have a big box where we put around 50 of our units in, and we're going to be giving Amazon the dimensions of our case pack and creating a template because we're probably going to send in the same number of units and the same size every time we send in a shipment. However, if your product didn't already come in boxes and you need boxes in order to ship your product into Amazon, you can go into your local Walmart, order them from Amazon, or one of my favorite places to order boxes from at a discount is uline.com. And when you're creating your new template, there are a few things that can mess up new sellers. There's some big mistakes new sellers make, and here are some of the things to keep in mind because the Amazon warehouse has some specific requirements. You need to make sure that the case that you're shipping in has no side that is longer than 25 inches. So every side needs to be under 25 inches. And once you put all your units of your product into the box, you need to make sure that the box does not weigh over 50 pounds. There are some other recommendations on Amazon's website. I'll put a link to all the recommendations down below. And to get started, you're going to give this template a name. So I'm going to call this Ascend Test. And then we're going to have to select the number of units per box. And we put 50 units of Ascend into every case that we send into Amazon. And then you'll type in the dimensions down here. And our box is 8.5 inches by 12.5 inches by 12 inches. And each case weighs 11 pounds. You're then going to look at the prep category. And for most products, there's no prep needed, but click on this and just look to see if there's anything special about your product. For instance, is it an adult item? Is it a baby product? Is it fragile glass? Is there liquids? Or anything where Amazon might need to know if there's more prep needed for your specific product. For us, and for most of you watching, there's no prep needed since we're selling a pretty simple product. So we're going to click to save that, which brings me to the second big mistake that I see so many Amazon sellers making, and this causes massive problems and delays down the road. So please pay attention here, and this mistake is not properly preparing your products. And really quick, before I continue with this, I do want to let you know that I'm giving away free one-on-one calls with myself and coaches in my program. There's a link to that down below, and on this call, we're going to tell you about our coaching program, and we're going to give you a plan on how you can get started with Amazon FBA, as well as tell you and see if you're a good fit for the mentorship program. We'll give you more information about that. It comes with weekly small group coaching calls, one-on-one calls, over 140 step-by-step screen recorded lessons that go into even more detail than this video right here, plus a bunch more. If you want to learn about that, there's a link to book that down below. I'd highly recommend doing it. It's completely free, but let's get back to the tutorial. Now, how you prep your product is different from category to category. So if your product falls under one of the categories we talked about where prep is needed, I recommend you do research and find out what you need to do to prep your specific item. I'll put a link down below to an article that goes over how you need to prep your product depending on which of the prep needed categories it falls into. But another huge mistake I see new Amazon sellers make is labeling their product incorrectly. And I'm specifically talking about labeling the individual units. And labeling your units just means adding on your FNSKU to every single unit. This means every single product that you're going to be selling. And the FNSKU stands for Fulfillment Network Stock Keeping Unit. This is just a way for Amazon and the Amazon FBA warehouse to keep track of the inventory, the stock of the products that you're selling. Now, this is different than a UPC code. A UPC code is a barcode that all products have, and it stands for Universal Product Code. And every product being sold has a UPC code. This is the barcode that they can scan at Walmart or when you go into a store to identify what the product is. And this is also, a UPC code is also different than an FNSKU. And the way you can think about this is every single product in the world has a UPC code, and that UPC code identifies that specific product. Now, FNSKU is different because let's say I bought a tub of electrolytes and I decided I want to sell this on Amazon. And you bought the same brand, the same tub of electrolytes, and you also wanted to sell it on Amazon. Both these products would have the same UPC code. However, Amazon would give us both different FN SKUs to identify which of these units are your units and which of these units are my units. So you're going to want to add your FN SKU to your product. If you're selling a product that was created by someone else, let's say you're doing retail arbitrage or wholesale, you're going to want to put your FN SKU sticker over top of the UPC code. However, if you're creating your own private label or niche branded product or passion product, you can print the FN SKU directly on your product, saving you the cost of having to create the stickers and the time of having to label all of them. And in just a minute, I'm going to explain how to get your FN SKU and how to print them out as stickers if you're not able to print your FN SKU directly on your product. Don't worry, I'll get into that. And I'll give you my hack for this in just a second. But first, let's finish filling this out. And when it says boxes, they mean cases here. And we're planning to send in 9 cases. Each case has 50 units. So that's a total of 450 units that we're going to be sending in. And then we're going to click Ready to Send. Now, in order to get your FN SKU, you're going to click here and you're going to print your FN SKU labels, and you can put in how many units you need labels for. For instance, let's say we needed 30. We'll click on print and you'll get a paper that looks like this with a bunch of barcodes, and you can buy sticker paper that you can put into any printer. Print out these barcodes and just slap it on your product. It is easy to do, but it does take a lot of time because you have to do each one individually. So I always recommend having the manufacturer print the FN SKU directly onto your product if you can. And this is what we did for Ascend, because we didn't want to have to deal with buying sticker paper, printing out all the individual FN SKUs, and spending the time to label each individual units. One thing I would really try to avoid doing is having Amazon label the products for you, because they're going to charge you 50 cents per unit just to put on the FN SKU sticker. And if you follow this advice, boom, you just saved a lot of money and you avoided making another mistake that a lot of new sellers make. And now that we're done with the template, we're going to click Save, and we're going to come to this screen and we're going to let Amazon know how many boxes we're going to be sending in. But before we do that, let's click on Confirm and Continue. Now, Amazon makes you choose between 2 shipment methods. The first one is Amazon Fulfillment Center, and the second is Amazon Warehousing and Distribution, or AWD. Now, Amazon is going to recommend AWD to you right here, but for most of you watching, especially if it's your first shipment, you're going to want to select Amazon Fulfillment Center. AWD is Amazon's bulk long-term storage program. It's really designed for sellers who are sending in huge amounts of inventory on pallets and want Amazon to slowly feed it into the warehouse over time. It can save you money on storage at scale, but it sends you down a completely different shipping process, and it's too complicated for a normal shipment like this one. So we're going to click Amazon Fulfillment Center, which is the standard option. It's also the one that gets your product checked in and ready to sell as fast as possible. Then we'll continue. Next, we're going to select a ship date, and I'm going to select August 1st as the ship date. But if you look here, there are 2 different options that Amazon gives you. They give you small parcel delivery, which is what we're selecting, but they also give you the option of less than truckload. And for most people watching this video, you're going to want to select small parcel delivery. And let me explain the difference between small parcel delivery and less than truckload. You should select small parcel delivery if you're planning on putting your units into boxes and then going to UPS and dropping off those boxes, or having a UPS truck come to you to pick up those boxes. This is the most common option if you're just sending a small amount of inventory in. However, if you're selling in a whole pallet or multiple pallets of your product into the Amazon warehouse, you're going to select less than truckload. And this is where a truck is going to come to either your house or your manufacturer and pick up an entire pallet or multiple pallets of your product. Just make sure to confirm with your manufacturer, if you go with this option, that they're willing to accept a truck to come pick up the products, and they might have some requirements. You'll also need to let them know to put your products on a pallet and to properly wrap it. And that's something I'll talk about in just a minute. Most manufacturers will know how to do this, so don't worry about that. Now, this is another mistake I see people making. If you're sending a lot of products into the Amazon warehouse, don't keep doing small parcel delivery. And this method of less than truckload is how I used to send my product, Carnivore Electrolytes, into the Amazon warehouse. We'd send in thousands of units at a time. And if you're sending in that many units, you can actually schedule a truck to come to your house with a lift gate and pick up the entire pallet right from your home. And boom, if you're sending in a lot of inventory, this will cut your shipping cost in half. Another secret that not a lot of sellers know is that it's relatively cheap to send your products into the Amazon warehouse because you're using Amazon's discounted UPS shipping rates. We're sending in 9 cases and it's going to cost less than $100. And that's a total weight of 100 pounds. If you were to send the same number of boxes with the same weight to just a friend in another city, it would cost you multiple hundreds of dollars. But because Amazon has negotiated down their shipping rates, it's pretty inexpensive to ship it into the Amazon warehouse. And if you click on this button right here, you can use a different shipping service than UPS to ship your products into the Amazon warehouse. But remember, it's going to be a lot more expensive to do that, so I don't recommend doing that. However, if you did want to do that, you can click on which service you're going to use: DHL, FedEx, USPS, or another company. Before I move on to the next section, I do also want to note that if you select less than truckload as your shipping option, you're not going to be using UPS. Amazon's going to connect you with a local trucking company, and that process is a little bit different. And if you actually need help from me and my team with more complex situations like that, I have a link in the description to apply for a free one-on-one call with either me or one of my top coaches. We only accept people serious about starting to sell on Amazon and actually willing to put in the work and the money necessary to build a 100K per year machine. We don't open up mini calls as we only have limited availability, but if you book a slot, we will look at your exact situation and see how we can help you grow. We offer daily coaching plus one-on-one calls every step of the way with 7-figure coaches. There's also 140 plus step-by-step lessons, a private community of sellers, and much more. I really want to make sure that everyone that works with me gets as much value as humanly possible. So if you're serious about selling on Amazon, again, link to that down below in the description. But since most people watching this video are just going to be doing small parcel delivery, you're going to select UPS as your carrier. And once you've done that, now you'll hit one more new step Amazon recently added called the placement option. And this one actually matters for your wallet, so pay attention. Amazon's going to show you a few choices. The first is called Amazon Optimize, where Amazon splits your boxes across several of their warehouses around the country. And then you've got the minimal splits option, where you send everything to just 1 or 2 location. Now here's the catch. A lot of new sellers don't realize with the minimal splits options, Amazon hits you with what's called an inbound placement fee. Basically a charge per unit for the convenience of sending to fewer warehouses. With the Amazon Optimized option, that placement fee disappears. So don't assume simplifying is cheaper. Just look at the total cost column right here. In our case, you can see Amazon Optimized is by far the cheapest. Well, the minimal splits options jump up to way over $100 or even $200. So for us, it's a no-brainer. We're going to select Amazon Optimize. Just know that because of this, your 9 boxes are going to get split into a few separate shipments going to different warehouses, which just means you'll be printing a few more labels, but you're saving real money, so it's worth it. And just like that, boom, you've created your first shipment to the Amazon warehouse. You're going to click Accept Charges and Confirm Shipping. And you're then going to need to print out the box labels. And these are the labels that you're going to put on the outside of the cases that you're sending into Amazon. And you're going to get 2 labels. The first one is the UPS label here. And this is the label for UPS to scan your package and to be able to track your package. You'll also attach to the same box the second label over here. And this is the Amazon FBA Box ID label. The purpose of this label is when you ship into the Amazon Fulfillment Center, Amazon will scan this label and know exactly where your package is in their warehouse. And every time your package moves around the warehouse or goes to a different warehouse, they're going to scan this so they can keep track of your individual products. So this is a very important label, and you're going to need to make sure that you leave this label uncovered. Basically, make sure that you don't accidentally put any tape over the parts that need to be scanned, because sometimes that can cause some major issues on this label. You need to make sure that it can properly be scanned, otherwise that's going to be problems. And if Amazon has issues with this, they may lose your inventory, or they may end up just not accepting it, or they may end up charging you a bunch of money in order to properly fix it. It's going to cause issues if you make this mistake. Now, before we go any further, there are some really important details you must double check on these labels. Otherwise, there could be issues with your shipment. Amazon could lose your products, or a bunch of other things like I've already mentioned could happen. In fact, UPS might even charge you more money if you have incorrect information on your labels. The first thing to check is that the weight is correct for each individual case. You'll also want to double check that the dimensions are correct for each box, and it's really important to make sure that your ship from and your ship to address are correct. and that your ship to over here matches the ship to address over here as well. And you can see that I have 9 pages here, and these 9 pages correspond to 9 cases that I'm going to be shipping in. Another interesting thing to note is the ship to address on these 2 labels are actually different. And that's because Amazon in this case is sending my packages into different Amazon FBA warehouses. You can then print out these labels using sticker paper, or if you prefer instead, you can use regular paper and just use tape to attach it to the cases that will be carrying your individual units. In this scenario, this is the case that holds 50 units of Ascend. So we will have 9 boxes like this in total, all with 2 labels on them. This next step is really important, so pay attention here. Many new sellers overlook this and end up having a really stressful time before they even sold their first product. So make sure and pay attention to this next section. It's absolutely crucial. But quick pause for today's sponsor, Dula, who actually makes episodes like this one possible. If you're watching this from outside the United States and you still want to sell on Amazon US, you definitely can, but you want to do it right. You need a US LLC, an EIN, and a US bank account so Amazon can pay you. Each one has its own process and its own way to go wrong. The EIN alone can take 8 to 11 weeks if you file it yourself. Dula handles all of it for you. You pick LLC, your state, you add EIN and banking, and they will take care of all the boring stuff. Your EIN comes back in 1 to 2 weeks, your US bank account gets opened, and you're ready to start receiving money from Amazon. Dula handles your filings every year so you stay safe. You no longer have to worry about getting burned or getting a $25,000 fine by the IRS. Go to Dula.com and use code TRAVIS10 for 10% off to book a free demo. There's a link to Dula down in the description. Once you've sent your products into the Amazon warehouse, you need to track them and see the status of the shipment by going to Supply Chain, then Manage Shipments. Here you'll see the status of your shipments in the Amazon FBA warehouse. I'll click on this one right here to give you an example of what I'm looking for, and you can see the order delivery here. Shipment created January 14th. Then in transit, you can see it was received on January 25th, and then it took from January 25th all the way to February 11th for Amazon to check it in and for them to close the shipment. And we can see that it says no shipping problems found and that they received everything perfectly. And it's really important that you make sure and stay on top of this and make sure that Amazon isn't losing your inventory, because that can happen. It even happened to me recently. As you can see here, Amazon mixed up most of the inventory of these 2 last shipments, but luckily after some back and forth, we got it all fixed. And if there are any errors, you need to jump on it immediately and make sure that Amazon corrects the issue. And the good news is, if Amazon does lose some of your inventory, they will pay you full price for your products. But sometimes if you don't catch them, they won't ever pay you. They'll assume that you made a mistake. You can then click Contents up here, and we're taken to a page that Amazon uses to double check that all your contents, all your units, in this case, all my Ascend boxes have been delivered. And they check how many units we said we shipped versus how many they received. And in this case, it says your shipment has been received in full. No discrepancies have been found, which is exactly what we want to hear. Sometimes they will say, hey, you told us that you shipped 405, but we only received 400. And at that point, this is where you want to make sure you document how many products that you shipped into the warehouse. Because if you can't prove how many you shipped in, you're not going to get paid by Amazon. And if you click here on problems, this is where you'd see the notification of any shipment level problems like delays, box level problems, or things like missing or damaged boxes, and also product level problems like discrepancy in the number of products delivered, or if maybe some of your products were damaged. Another key thing to remember is that it's very important to be patient here and to plan accordingly. You don't want to wait until a week or 2 before you want to launch your products to ship your products in. It takes a few days to a few weeks for the products to get shipped into the Amazon warehouse. It then takes even weeks before they're checked in and ready to be sold. As a general rule of thumb, at a minimum, I like to ship my products in 3 weeks before I plan to start selling them. And even that's cutting it close. Sometimes it'll take as long as 6 weeks. That's why I always recommend, if you're selling a product on Amazon and you see you start running out of inventory, send in the shipment as soon as possible, because that's another big mistake I see new sellers making. They run out of inventory on Amazon because they mistimed it. They see, oh, I've got 2 weeks worth of inventory. I'm going to ship more inventory to the warehouse and it'll have plenty of time to get there and get checked in. It's not true. Amazon doesn't rush or prioritize your products just because you're about to run out of inventory. It could still take up to 6 weeks. So you're going to want to make sure that you stay on top of that. You're also going to want to be aware that during the holiday season, sometimes wait times are going to be even longer. But to be honest, 6 weeks is about the max they've made me wait between shipping my products into the warehouse and the products actually getting checked in. But as you can see, every once in a while, mistakes are made and inventory is lost. So you're going to want to be aware. And sometimes I also recommend only sending in half your inventory and then sending in the other half a couple days later. That way it's 2 different shipments, so if one gets lost, the other one's still going to arrive. Okay, and if you click on carrier updates, there are also a few different status updates that you might commonly see. And Amazon has a list of them. I'll put in the link down below, along with the definition of what the different statuses mean. Some common ones that you're gonna see for your status are that your product is in transit, which means that it's going to the Amazon warehouse. There's also delivered, which means it was delivered to the Amazon warehouse. But be careful, this sounds like you're done, but that just means it's been delivered to the Amazon warehouse, but no one's actually checked it in, meaning that they haven't even acknowledged that they've received it. It just means that UPS or your trucking company has said, hey, we've dropped it off. The next stage is receiving, and receiving means that Amazon's actually started ripping up those case boxes and checking in the individual units. And the last thing that you'll see is closed. And once all your units have been checked in and all the cases and everything has been accounted for, then your shipping plan will be closed. This whole section is really helpful for tracking. And again, something you're going to want to be aware of is sometimes there are going to be discrepancies. And if that does happen, you can actually upload documents and follow up and show Amazon that you did send in all the units that you said you did. And if you submit enough evidence, they will just pay you for those units that went missing. Another hack that I've actually had to learn the hard way is to keep track of all your paperwork. Every receipt, every piece of paper that might seem unimportant, just trust me, keep it somewhere. For example, if you're sending in an entire pallet full of your product, you're gonna have to go to the individual shipment summary and print out the BOL. And BOL stands for Bill of Lading. It's a piece of paper that you're gonna have to give to the truck driver when he comes to your house to pick up the pallet to verify that he's picking up the correct pallet. If you don't have all the paperwork you need, you'll be charged a fee. When the truck driver picks up the pallet, he will also give you a receipt. Make sure you put this receipt in a safe place because if your units get lost, you need that as proof. As I said, this has happened to me before. I sent in an entire pallet and Amazon was like, hey, we never received it, an entire pallet. And I had misplaced my receipt. And this mistake would have cost me over $10,000, except for a couple months later, Amazon ended up finding that entire pallet. So luckily, they ended up putting all those units into my inventory. But it did take a few months. So be very careful about that and make sure you keep all your receipts. Another important thing to note is on the bill of lading, there will be information about which trucking company is going to be coming to your house or your warehouse to pick up your pallet. I highly recommend calling that trucking company the day before they come to pick up the pallet, because if they're picking up the pallet from your house, you're going to need to let them know that it's a residential address, meaning they're going to be sending a smaller truck, because if they try to send a giant truck, of course, it's going to cause a lot of issues. Also, if you don't have a forklift, which you probably don't at your house, you're gonna have to let them know that they need to bring a truck that has a lift gate. A lift gate is a gate on the back that goes up and down, and it makes it easier to load pallets. If, however, you're sending the inventory from your warehouse, you're gonna wanna call your warehouse and ask them if they have a dock that trucks can come to, or if they have a forklift, or if you need to send a truck that has a lift gate. You also wanna make sure you know what time they're going to be getting there. If they're picking up products from your house, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're home during that time. And if they're picking up the pallets from your manufacturer, you're gonna wanna make sure that your manufacturer or one of the employees is around to help load the products onto the truck. But there is one more huge mistake that new Amazon sellers make when they're sending in inventory, and that's sending in too much or too little inventory. If you send in too much inventory into Amazon's warehouse, your inventory just sits there and you're gonna be charged a fee every single month that you have your inventory sitting in the warehouse. On top of that, they have what's called LTSF, or long-term storage fees. If your inventory is sitting in their warehouse for more than 6 months, they start charging you even more money. So I always recommend only sending in about 6 months worth of inventory at a time. On the flip side, if you send in too little inventory, and start to have a lot of sales of your product, you run the risk of running out of inventory. And this is the worst thing that can happen to you with Amazon, or at least one of the worst things that can happen to you. Amazon could even blacklist you if you run out of inventory, or at a minimum, your rank for your product might drop. So for every day you're out of inventory, Amazon will count it as 0 sales made. And when you get back in stock, this will mean that you probably will no longer be on page 1 or on the top of page 1, meaning that you're gonna get way less sales. And I've seen this happen to people where they run out of inventory and they're never able to recover. So you wanna be really careful that you don't run out of inventory, especially if you're in a competitive market. So you're always gonna wanna send in around 3 to 6 months worth of inventory. And when you start to get around that 3-month or 2-month mark, it's time to start sending in more units. This way you don't run out of inventory, but you also don't have to pay any of those long-term storage fees. So now you know how to get your product into Amazon's warehouse, but shipping is just one piece of the money machine. If any other part is broken, you still won't make sales. I put together a full step-by-step breakdown of the entire system, start to finish, of how to sell on Amazon right here. You can click on this video, or if you haven't yet, book your free one-on-one call. There's a link right here / down below in the description to book your free one-on-one call. I will see you guys either on the call or in the next video. Thanks for watching.